CRM was supposed to improve customer relationships. Instead, it's shorthand for Customer Rage Machine. Your CRM can't explain why a customer's package took 5 detours? Reboot your inner peace and scream into a pillow. It's okay. On the ServiceNow AI platform, CRM stands for something better. AI agents don't just track issues, they resolve them, transforming the entire customer experience. So breathe in and breathe out. Bad CRM was then. This is ServiceNow.
Gas mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna cook a meal that's gonna make you mine. I'm turning up the oven, now we're ready to roast. When you touch me, honey, you'll love it the most. Come on and put me in a loving shoe.
Welcome to another Bitflix.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today's guest is a screenwriter, award-winning author, and former Fleet Street journalist, Nicola Pittam. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Now, obviously, we are going to be listening to your stories of 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life, as is the format of this podcast. But you are also going to be sharing with us why screenwriters should be maybe thinking about turning their scripts into novels, and by extension, the benefits of protecting and creating IP as screenwriters. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a big thing these days. A lot of producers, even the movie studios, want that IP. You know, they want that built-in audience, so they know if they're putting a product out, it has that audience already that they're hoping will come and see the movie. Brilliant.
So yeah, so you've got so I'm assuming then we're talking about a screenwriter with a screenplay, and they're perhaps not getting any traction with it, and they're trying to maybe, I guess it's leading you towards gaming the system in some way. It's to get noticed or be more noticeable. So what do you think is the best approach for a screenwriter to be taking in the start of a journey where they might be thinking about converting their screenplays into novels?
Yeah, I mean, they should basically, look at all the stuff that has been turned, into movies from books recently. There's been a lot of stuff. And, it also, a lot of it started in the beginning when Marvel and DC came on the scene. And obviously they are a massive IP.
Yeah.
So, you have hundreds of millions of people that, read the comics and stuff. But a knock-on effect of that is producers started looking and wanting, to have this IP. So, you've got to think, screenwriters are very visual, I think. Mm-hmm. They have to see, they have that vision of what it's going to look like on the screen. But that can still be taken and transferred, I think, into a book, which people will enjoy reading. Now, a lot of the books that, I think do well turning from script to novels are drama, a lot of the genre stuff like fantasy, horror, sci-fi. So, and if you have your own IP, then you have 2 bites of what I see as 2 bites of the apple. You're still trying to sell the script, but then you also have a book which you can also sell and hopefully be making money on while you're trying to sell the script. It's a pretty, I wouldn't say easy process, but if you're a writer, you should be able to take that script and turn it into a novel. It's just a different style of writing, and people, writers should be adaptable and be able to do that, if they want to play the game.
Like, I've got a 90-page screenplay, and I can perhaps read that in about 2 hours, hopefully. And obviously a novel is a bit longer than that, isn't it? So how are we taking that? Because having done the opposite, which is I've taken novels and adapted them to screen.
Yeah.
You're taking an essence of something.
Yeah, it is a long process. Well, not a long process, but it is a process.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2021, I had a book published in the UK by Mardle Books called A Vow of Silence.
Okay.
Made the Sunday Times bestseller list. It did really well.
Well done.
Mardle came back to me and said, do you have anything else? And I pitched them a couple of projects, and they were like, it's not really our wheelhouse. And my manager said to me, why don't you pitch them your Holocaust script? And I said, yeah, but I don't really see it as a book. It's, it's a Holocaust. It's like, look at, the tattooist of Auschwitz, all these books were becoming very popular at that point. Mm-hmm. So I pitched them the script and they loved it. And they said, yeah, we want it as a book. Can you get it to us in 3 months?
Wow.
And I went, sure, no problem, thinking this will be really easy. And it wasn't. But, you know, there are tricks that you can do. They wanted a 75,000 word book. So I took the script, which was in final draft, and I put it into a Word document. I thought this will be really easy. I've just got to take out the directions, you know, the scene headings, and just format it. Well, it was a 120-page script.
Yeah.
Once I put it in Word, it came out at 23,000 words.
Ouch.
And I was like, now I have to find 52,000 more words. Oh my God. So, but luckily for me, I think my journalist background, I'd done so much research.
Yeah.
Because it was based on a true story. So I'd done so much research on the Holocaust, you know, the camp, all the, you know, so I was able to bring all that research that I'd done and create, you know, all these extra scenes, characters and I did it in 3 months. And I really enjoyed doing it. It was a different way of writing. You know, you have to make it, I don't want to use the word flowery, you know, because authors will get really mad at me, but you have to make, you know, there's so much more description. But I think writing a screenplay, quite often you have to be very strict and succinct. Like when you're writing an action line, it has to be very done, move on to the next line, bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
But with a book or a novel, you can take the time and you can describe more, and you can really get in, you know, to describing the characters' inner feelings and, you know, and what they're going through. So I really enjoyed doing it. And I delivered a 77,000 word book to them in 3 months, and they loved it and published it. So, you know, it is doable. And it's one of those things that, you know, I think, you know, and obviously I then went back and revised the script because I put so much more into the book. I was able to go back and make the script even stronger.
Question about that then, because obviously you asked me when they're developing screenplays, you know, what were the storytelling challenges, and then when we get to the film and you've got like what was discovered in the edit. But when you take a screenplay that's sort of, I'm guessing you were like, this screenplay's ready to go. And but obviously when you expand it into a novel, you've got a lot more places to go. So what new story did you discover taking it to a novel?
I went back through the script and I shortened a lot of scenes, took out some dialogue, took out a lot of description. I'd added in several new characters, which I brought into the script, and several scenes as well that were just expanded the world, because a lot of the stuff that I put into the book, that the main character, Moshe, she's the main focus of the script. But in the book, I was able to follow several other characters and their story within the camp as well, even though still tied it into Moshe. So I was able to go back and rejig the script. And I took out some stuff that I thought, well, this is not relevant now so much, because it doesn't have such a big impact as this story that's happened to this other character, but it still impacts Moshe in a different way. And the script, when I'd done it, the script came, I say it was originally 120 pages and it's now 123. Okay. So I didn't, well, when I did the first edit, it came in at like 138. So I had to go back and really chop it to death. But I definitely think doing the book made my script so much richer and better. And my manager's taking it out now, and we've been getting some good feedback on it. So
right. So people listening to this who maybe aren't as far up the ladder as you, they've not got a manager, they're not necessarily got an open dialogue with the publisher. How might they be, because I could imagine a scenario where I might try and develop one of my screenplays into a novel, and it just becomes, I've then got a screenplay nobody's looking at, and I've got a novel that nobody's looking at.
Right.
How can you capitalize on it from that very low bar start? How do you begin to make it an IP that's got some interest? I'm not saying it has to be a New York Times bestseller, but certainly if you're going to go to the trouble, you've got to create
you should be aiming for that, because so many people right now are realizing that, a lot of producers and studios are buying books. And, another big one that's coming out on Netflix in a couple of weeks is Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. That started as, and there's so many things that are coming. And now with the increase in the number of streamers, a lot of streamers like Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Paramount are turning to IP. So there is a bigger market for it. But I would say definitely, you can go the route of self-publishing, But let's be honest, most people who self-publish don't sell more than 100 books.
Okay.
Because they don't know how to market and they don't know how to get it out there. That's also another big issue. So, you've got to make the book the best it can be. And by doing that, you need to send it out to beta readers to get feedback. You should have an editor go through it and check it. And so I see so many people that self-publish on Amazon that have a great story, a great concept, and it's let down because it's so full of spelling mistakes, grammar errors, the formatting's all wrong, and it just turns people off. And and that's going to be reflected in your reviews at the end of the day. So there's two ways: you can self-publish, or you can try and get an agent and basically get them to obviously sell it for you. Most publishing houses won't accept a submission unless it's through an agent. The big five definitely won't, like HarperCollins, Simon Schuster, etc., Penguin. But there are now some smaller publishing companies that do accept submissions, and you just need to go on and just check their websites and see when their submissions. The other way to do it is, which I found really helpful, and I've directed a lot of writers this way, look out on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Look out on BookTok, which is a section of TikTok. Book agents will post up every now and again that they're open for submissions and what they're looking for.
Okay.
And they will give you a link, or they will give you an email address to message them directly. Okay. And I know a lot of writers that have had success that way, rather than cold calling, sending in cold submissions. So, agents want to make, find the next big success as much as you want to be the next big success. Them are open to, a very active on social media. Social media is a big way, to help you go this route. But, I'm the director of author services at Onemoorer, which is a media literary management company. Okay. And we actually do classes of how to turn your script into a novel and show you how to do it. There are other people that do that as well. Okay. So, classes you can take out there, but I think if you're a good writer, you should know, it shouldn't be that difficult to take, because you've got the script, you've got the bones of it, you've got the story laid out. It's basically your outline, which you should have anyway. So you're taking that fleshed out outline and you're just expanding on it, is basically what it boils down to. But that's only half the struggle. You've got to learn how to market yourself, use social media, get yourself known out there, do TikToks on BookTok, get people, send it out to influencers, beta readers, that have a big market. And there's also a thing called NetGalley, which you can submit your book to and get people that go on NetGalley are vetted, but they get to read it for free before it's published, and they give you reviews, which you can then use to help promote the book. So there are a number of different ways that you can. It's just a matter of getting out there, because if you're not signed, if you're not with one of the big five, even if you're with one of the big five, you still have to do a lot of your own publicity. Okay. And that is the secret to getting it sold and noticed and in front of people.
And then, so if that's about how we create it and how we hopefully get noticed, then in what way do you think this represents sort of protecting your IP? Are you talking about the fact that a book's out there protects your IP on the screenplay? Is that kind of what you get?
Yeah, because you own the IP. So if anybody wants to take that story, it's basically, and it's one of two things. You own the IP, which is really good. So if a producer sees the book, or you've managed to get your screenplay into somebody else's hands, they've got to buy the rights to that IP. Yeah. Even if they don't want you on as screenwriter, you're still going to get the credit, because you own the IP, you own the book, it's based on that story, it's based on that book. Quite often, and, I'm sure you've seen it as well, people sell their scripts and then they bring in writers, it gets rewritten and you don't even recognize the script, or you don't even get a credit on it. Yeah. You've then got the leverage. If they're buying the rights, you have to say to them, well, the book's out there, you've got to buy the rights to the book as well. Or, it's got to be, you want in the title card based on, and so by Stuart Wright, it's helping you protect. But I say it's also giving you two bites of the apple that hopefully, while you're trying to sell the screenplay, your book's selling and you're making money off that. but also, if you sell enough copies, it shows that producer that you have that built-in audience as well, and you have people that will come to see the movie, and it is a popular book.
Excellent. So just one last thing then. So you mentioned that who do you work with that does training for converted for trade?
Yeah, it's a company called Onemoorer. It was set up by James Moorer. He's a fellow screenwriter I met through Screenwriting U.
Okay.
We both went through and got their masters in screenwriting. We've known each other for 10 years now, maybe even more than that. I can't even remember. Yeah. And we've written a couple of scripts together. We've done a couple of books together. We've both done script to book. I say mine was bought as a book. James did his own book, which he published, and now he's got somebody looking, at that for the screenplay side of it. Mm-hmm. So we both have that experience of doing that. I'm their director of author services. We host, we offer classes, mentorships, coverage on books and novels. But also, I've just become the COO of Dark Anthem Press, which is the publishing side of Onemoorer. Mm-hmm. And on September the 21st, we will be opening for submissions. We've published a couple of books, but we're really going to start getting stuck into it properly. And it's basically a genre press, and we are looking for dark gothic, fantasy, horror, sci-fi, and thrillers. And we specialize in, book to screen. So, we're there to help you once the book's done to then get it, out there and then hopefully made, into a TV movie, TV series, movie, etc. So anybody can go on to onemoorer.com. Mm-hmm. They can see across the top of the website is if you click on publishing, and then the portal for the submissions will be open, let's say September the 21st. And you can also click on writer services and see what else we offer.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put links in the show notes so people can click on that easy enough. And let us move seamlessly into 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Right then, the rules are simple. Mm-hmm. You've given me 3 titles. I will give you 5 minutes. And every time we hear this sound, can you hear that at your end?
Yeah.
Good. So every time we hear that sound, we will end the chat on that film and move on to the next one. The main reason being, we could obviously spend 15 minutes or longer on any one of the films, and this means we get an even spread. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Right then. Starring Glenn Close, John Malkovich, as a part he got over the unknown Alan Rickman, who was playing it in Broadway. Michelle Pfieffer, as well as Uma Thurman, Keanu Reeves and Peter Capaldi. This star-studded 88 high society period drama, an adaptation of not only an 85 stage play, but a scandalous 1782 novel of the same name. So scandalous indeed that Queen Mary Antoinette's personal copy was bound in blank paper so people wouldn't see she had it. I am talking about Stephen Frears' Dangerous Liaisons. Tell us, why does this film have an impact on you and why is it so memorable?
It's one of my favourite films of all time. I just think the script is so clever. It's one of those movies that you just think, wish I'd written that. It's just so good. And the performances, like nobody won it. I can't believe that none of the actors won an Oscar for it. Not one of them.
Wow.
That year Glenn Close was beaten out by Jodie Foster for The Accused, which, John Malkovich wasn't even nominated for an Oscar for it, which blows my mind. And it's the only movie as well that he's ever looked hot in. I mean, come on, what is that about?
The man apparently had an affair during the making of it with Michelle Pfieffer, and both their marriages ended because of it. Yeah. So, again, for me, this is it. I mean, obviously, it's the performances are fantastic, the set, the costumes, but for me, it's the script. It's such a clever, witty script. Yeah.
I just love it. It's one of my favorite ever movies. And it's one of those films that I could watch. I've probably seen it over 50 times. Watch it again and again. And I could probably quote it to you word for word by now. And I never get tired of watching it. And I'm sure you have movies like that.
Indeed, I do. So what is it about? What does it get right then in the screenwriting from your point of view that's worth drawing attention to?
I say it's witty, it's fun, it keeps you engaged. The characters are the characters are amazing. They're so, the depth, oh God, even though Glenn Close is the villain in it, you're just rooting for her the whole time. You just want her and John Malkovich to just work it out, and they just don't. It's a really awful ending, really, when you think about it. But I just think, oh my God, I want her to have him so badly, and she never does. Through her own deviousness. But yeah, it's. And again, the plot, it never falters. There's never a moment that you get bored. It's just constant. The Michelle Pfeiffer's character is just so nuanced. It's, she's this innocent woman. And it was only after I watched it 3 or 4 times, because in the beginning I thought, Michelle Pfeiffer's character. And then after I watched it several times, I was like, oh my God, that character is so nuanced. There's so much stuff going on under the surface, and she plays it so well.
Yeah.
And I think every time I watch it, I just find something about it that I just like even more and more. Yeah,
because I guess you've got, in terms of like the kind of period drama that certainly would have been knocking around the 80s, you had your classic sort of Merchant Ivory type things, which are very sort of staid. And I guess this is a real Hollywood version of a period drama. And obviously the scandalous nature of the story lends itself to the sort of glitz and glamoury side of what Hollywood can do to a story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, it's very risque, but without showing anything. Which obviously, that time period, etc. So, it's so close to the knuckle of the things she says and does for that time period. I just think I don't know. I just love it. And I could even forgive Keanu Reeves' bad acting in it. He's the one weak link. I'll give him that, bless him. And I love Keanu Reeves, don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's just sumptuous. It's just fun. As I said, it's one of the wittiest.
What's the scene you look for when you rewatch it then? What's the scene you look forward to?
The final scene between Glenn Close and John Malkovich, where she basically says that she didn't screw over Michelle Pfeiffer. He was the one that she screwed over. And he's like, okay, is it this or is it war? And she just goes, it sends a shiver down my spine every time. And it's just like, oh, she got him. He's so vain and so egotistical. He had no idea that he was being played. And she was gunning for him, not Michelle Pfeiffer.
And there's our first 5 minutes.
Oh.
Well done. Well, let me just pull up my notes as we move on to our second choice. Rather missing the film's point of condemning violence, the leading man of this film would get challenged to a fight all the time by local thugs after playing the role of Jake Heek. The actor Cliff Curtis is still teased about his role as Uncle Bully in this film to this day. A role he initially turned down because he thought it was so repulsive, but his agent and his auntie persuaded him to do it. I'm talking about Lee Tamahori's 1994 Once Were Warriors. Tell us, Nicola, where does this fit in with your film watching life, and why did this have such an impact on you?
I think it's one of those films that, out of all the films I've watched over my lifetime, it's the one that stuck with me the most.
Okay.
It's that after I finished watching it, for days afterwards, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's like the themes in it, the message, the violence, it was, again, one of those scripts, just such an amazing script. And so, and the performances were just phenomenal. And it was just one of those, I would sit and just think about it. And I had a friend who watched it a couple of weeks later, and she came to me, she's like, oh my God, did you watch this film? I was like, yes, I did. And we just talked about it. And it was one of those films that for the first time I thought, wow, movies can really have an impact on your life and how you think and how you see things. That what it did for me.
Yeah, because for 1994, this was a film that sort of came from absolute left field and landed right in the mainstream. Yeah. It's a cast of unknowns. It's not from a country, unlike now with Lord of the Rings, where big films are associated with the country. Like then, this was a real sort of this was a massive film coming from a tiny cottage industry.
Yeah. And it was also one of the very first films that made me go out, look deeply into it, realize it was based on a novel, and I went out and bought the book.
Okay.
And read the book. So it was based on Alan Duff's best-selling, it was his very first novel that he'd ever written in 1990. And so, and I, I wasn't in the movie industry at that point. I was working as a journalist, but it made me go, oh, wow, they've adapted this from a book, and now I want to go and read the book. And, it made me that realization of, wow, they're making, stuff out of books. So it's one of those, and the book, and it was one of those films that once I'd read the book, I was like, wow, it did such a good job of adapting the book. Because, since then we've all watched movies that have been adapted from books and thought, God, what were they doing? They totally screwed this up. But the movie was just as powerful as the book was.
Okay.
And it was one of the Rena Owen, the main lead. I think it was one of her. She hadn't done very many movies, I don't think. And again, Lee, what's his name? Tamura Morrison. He's come on to be. He's done a lot of Hollywood stuff. I think he did Barbed Wire with Pamela Anderson after this film.
Well, he was. Before this, he only ever played. Before he did this movie, he was known for playing calm good guys.
Yeah.
So the idea of this sort of.
And now he's Aquaman's dad.
What a story arc! What a story arc! Can I ask you then? Having read the novel, then what did they get right then about what the novel is and what became the film?
I think just how the novel it's very raw, which I think the movie is as well.
Yeah,
and it captures, and I think the movie did a really great job of capturing. The effects of the colonization of New Zealand at that time, and how the Maori, population were dealt with, and the struggles they were going through. That really came through, I think, in the film. How those problems with alcoholism and poverty and domestic violence in that genre and culture impacted the families, and that came through in the book, and I think it really came through in the film as well. It was heartbreaking to watch. It was a really hard watch for me, but I've watched it again several times over the years, and it doesn't get any easier to watch. No.
It was a film. I mean, originally the original screenplay, Knocking About, was turned down by lots of investors, including the New Zealand Film Commission, and Rewire Brown, who's a Wellington playwright. Rewrote the script and focused in on the story of the mother. And then obviously Morrison's character still is the lead, but we orbit the mother because it is that idea of 5 minutes is up.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lee Tamahori's gone on to direct Bond and stuff.
Indeed. Let us move on to your final choice. We're racing ahead. Right then. For your final choice, it stars Patrick Swayze opposite Keanu Reeves in what Mark Kermode describes as a testosterone-fueled homoerotic love story. And for once, being accomplished skydiver came in pretty handy for Swayze, who ended up doing a total of 55 jumps and refused a stunt double for the surfing scenes and cracked 4 ribs during production. I am indeed talking about Kathryn Bigelow's 1991 action movie Point Break. So tell us, where does this one grab you and how?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was a hard one because there's so many movies in that time period that I could have picked, like Con Air, Face Off, Terminator, Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Cliffhanger. I mean, they're all such good 80s, 90s action movies. But for me, I picked this one simply because of Kathryn Bigelow.
Okay.
And she's a female director. She's inspired me so much of what a female can do in this industry. She became the first female director to win an Oscar. For, I think it was The Hurt Locker. But obviously she did Point Break many years before. And, up until then, I didn't even know that women directed movies. So it was an eye-opener for me. And that's really the reason why I picked this film, was because of her. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the film. It's one of those great action movies that you can watch again and again. It's quotable. Keanu Reeves is great in it. Patrick Swayze also never looks hotter. And just the action scenes, the stunts for a female to direct that kind of action is phenomenal. You know, not only the surfing, but the skydiving, just the car chase, just everything. I just love it. It's just such a fun movie, just a perfect action movie.
Just in case, with your comments before about Keanu Reeves' acting or not acting abilities, this was his first action movie, and he was criticised for choosing a film like this because it might ruin his serious career, which is phenomenal when you think about The Matrix and John Wick, to name but two.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I love Keanu Reeves, I love John Wick, I love The Matrix. He's good in action stuff. You put him in, I think, in a role that requires more depth, and he kind of gets lost a little bit. This was perfect for him, I think. I think it was a good career choice. And pitting him against Patrick Swayze as well. I think they made a great, like you said, a homoerotic bromance.
No, it is. It is.
They play off each other so well in it. And I think it was a different one for Patrick Swayze as well, because he'd done a lot of, like, you know, different stuff up to this point. And it showed him as an action man as well.
He said himself this was more in keeping with who he really is, because he's obviously, if he was already skydiving, and he'd never had a stunt double, and the surfing scenes were a real challenge for him, apparently, because he didn't want to give up that reputation of being someone that did his own thing. So, but going back to Kathryn Bigelow, so was that something from the get-go? Like, when you first come across this movie, you're like, hold on a minute, this is because at the time I don't remember that being as big a news story as it is now.
No, it was something that I don't think I realised a woman had directed it until several months later, when I saw her doing an interview. And I was like, at the time, I wasn't in the movie industry at that point. This is what, 1991, I think, The Break came out. And I was kind of like, oh, interesting. I thought, and then as I got into screenwriting in the movie industry, and I started looking at her career more and what she's done and everything, it really, I was like, wow, because I think she'd only done, I think, 2 movies before this. One was Blue Steel with Jamie Lee Curtis, and I think The Loveless. So she'd only done 2 movies before she did this. And, that to me just blew my mind, that she'd created this, this was only the 3rd movie under her belt. So it was later on that I became much more, realised what she'd done and how she'd done it and what impact it had on the movie industry.
And it's weird with hindsight. I mean, she also did the vampire movie Near Dark as well. That was...
okay.
She really was, in a way, the only woman in Hollywood. I mean, there was a couple, but in sort of picking up big movies
in that time period,
that were going to be blockbusters and stuff, it really was just like there's this woman does them as well. Like, obviously now we've got a different. It's not a perfect landscape, but it's certainly a lot different.
And I think a lot of people, if they're not in the industry, I think a lot of people don't even realise that a woman directed that movie. But if you watched it, it doesn't feel like it's a female movie.
No, it's not.
I'm trying to say, but it doesn't. You wouldn't realise that a woman had directed it. I don't think.
Yeah.
No, and I think a lot of people don't realise that.
Indeed, and that's our 5 minutes. Well, thank you for sharing Dangerous Liaisons, Once Were Warriors, and Point Break with us. That was very interesting, and it's always interesting to see where the film fits in terms of people's point of view. And I do love a story about a film that can change your worldview and can make you, the power can make you see the power of films. Because it's not that powerful films didn't exist before, say, Once Were Warriors, but if that's the film that makes you see it, then it's a great moment.
Yeah.
Well, look, let us remind people then what's happening with submissions and the like in September.
Yeah, September the 21st, we're going to be opening submissions for Dark Anthem Press.
Okay.
We're looking for dark gothic, fantasy, horror, sci-fi and thrillers. Just to let people know, you should have the full manuscript. We want to see full manuscripts.
Okay.
Don't send us a synopsis. Don't send us 1 or 2 sample chapters. We'll need to see the whole manuscript to be able to read it from start to finish to gauge if we're interested.
Okay.
So that's happening in September. I say if you go on to onemoorer.com, it's ONE Moorer.
I'll put links in the show notes.
Okay. I say, and then if you just click publishing for Dark Anthem Press and writer services for everything else that me and James are available.
So that'll take you to the training stuff you offer as well, if you're on that site.
Yeah. Across the top, I think it says management, publishing, writer services, blog and things. So you can click on.
Brilliant.
And then I think further down the page, there's special events and stuff that we're having. because we do a lot of free webinars for writers as well.
Okay.
So now, at least once a month we have a free webinar on different subjects and different things for.
That's very generous. Thank you.
Along, hang out, meet us, offer some advice, etc.
Fantastic. Well, look, that just gives me then to say thank you very much for joining us on the Britflix podcast.
And thank you for having me. It was fun.
My pleasure.
Hey there, Hugh from Podderation here, and if you like today's show, why not have a listen to the All Things Nintendo podcast? Hosted by Brian Shea, former director and Game Informer and lifelong games journalist, the show explores the ins and outs of gaming's oldest company and one of its biggest, featuring interviews, featuring reviews, featuring everything you want to know about the world of Nintendo. If you'd like to learn more, check out our website at podderation.com.